The state capitol just closed the books on a session some are calling the most turbulent in a decade. In the final hours of session, lawmakers passed the Dismantle the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Employment Act. They also voted on a plan to place Memphis-Shelby County schools under a state-appointed management board. Another measure to let local districts refuse enrollment to children who cannot prove legal immigration status. Closer to home, the General Assembly considered giving Shelby County voters the option to raise sales taxes by 1 cent to fund a new billion-dollar jail. Legislators also voted on two separate proposed constitutional amendments to the 2026 ballot. So one to restrict automatic bail for violent offenses, the other to expand crime victims' rights. And finally, members also voted on a bill that uncouples gun rights from voting rights, streamlining the process for people with past felonies to have their ballots restored. So much happened, as you can see. And while the legislative session wrapped, there is so much to unpack with these 7 explosive votes and some balls still in the air. We brought in Memphis-based Carpenter Civic Strategies principal Mike Carpenter to translate the State House session into real-world impact for our families here in West Tennessee. Whew. What happened?
It's a lot.
What just happened?
It's a lot. That just scratches the surface of what they did this past session.
Okay, so let's start with the DEI bill.
Sure.
What does it say? What does it do?
Well, so the legislature, as I think most people know, has a supermajority of Republicans in both houses, and so they're following the lead of the Trump administration. And what they did is they said that local governments, institutions of higher education, and the governor's boards and commissions cannot have a DEI officer or a DEI officer or a DEI policy, DEI being diversity, equity, and inclusion, of course. And so what they've done is they've taken away that. And in addition, what a lot of people missed is that that bill scrubs all of the language and all of the Tennessee code that encourages minority and women business participation efforts. And so that's been completely prohibited by the legislature.
All right, so it's gone. All right, now there's also the MSCS takeover. I saw when, because there were two, White and Taylor, they had two different bills, right? That had the similar. Okay, let's let you talk about it.
Sure, yeah. So Representative White was the House sponsor, Senator Taylor, the Senate sponsor, and of essentially what began as the same bill. And so those two bills have to agree. The Senate has to pass the same version that the House passes, and then it goes to the governor to become law. In this case, they had two different versions and couldn't bring those two together.
Infighting?
And I don't know if it's so much infighting, but just sort of a difference of opinion about how much influence the state should have in an intervention, as they like to call it, or a takeover, as others call it.
Infighting.
So some disagreement there. But the other thing is I think that they paused because in the governor's budget, there's $6 million allocated for a forensic audit of Memphis and Shelby County schools. And a forensic audit is a little bit different than a financial audit in that the purpose of a forensic audit is to look for malfeasance, to look for conflicts of interest, to look for those kinds of things that could be a part of a legal action, or in this case, the state legislature weighing in. So what that does for them is if they find anything in this forensic audit, it gives them additional ammunition to gain support for state intervention. If they don't find anything or much, then you might go with the Taylor version that has a little bit less state control. If they find quite a bit, then you might go with the White version. But both bills are still very much alive.
Okay.
And we'll be back. You can count on those in January of 2026.
Okay, because it didn't go so well the last time, the last time this happened. Okay, let's talk about what stalled the immigrant education bill, and is that also alive?
Yeah, it's definitely alive, and the bill passed the Senate by a fairly narrow vote. I mean, with a supermajority, if all the Republicans stuck together, it would have passed overwhelmingly. But it was a 19-13 vote, so a number of Republicans voted against that bill. And the bill, just to quickly recap, would allow school districts, or one version would require school districts to check the immigration status of students, and then to either not enroll them or charge them tuition to go to school. So in the House sponsor, leader William Lamberth, decided to postpone the bill. He says because he wants to clarify with the federal government that the state wouldn't be risking $1.1 billion in funding by saying that we're not going to educate immigrant children. I think he probably didn't have quite the votes that he wanted, because this is the Trump administration that's dismantling the Department of Education, that's dismantling DEI, and going after illegal immigrants. And so I doubt that the state is actually risking $1.1 billion in federal funding, but this gives Lamberth the time to gain some support.
All right. Okay. Let's another Representative John Gillespie, Democratic Senator Ramesh Akbari sponsored a bill that would allow voters to choose to raise the sales tax to fund a jail. Usually, you don't see a Democrat and Republican coming together on jail topics. So let's just talk about what this means. What happened, what this means.
Well, right. So that just tells you how critical the situation is at the jail. The number of it's overcrowded, first of all, the number of inmates who've passed away in recent history. The jail is 40 years old. And so that just tells you the fact that you have a Democratic senator and a Republican representative coming together on this bill. And as you said, what the bill would have allowed is it would have allowed the voters to vote on whether or not they wanted to increase the sales tax to pay for the jail, which is estimated to be around $1 billion. Different estimates, 800 million to 1.4 billion is what I've heard, but let's say $1 billion. And the legislature, actually committee in the House, voted that bill down, and so it's dead for this year. And so now the county commission in particular and community leaders have to go back to the drawing board and figure out how they're going to pay to fix this jail.
Oh my goodness, $1 billion. Okay, we have two more very quickly. Let's talk about the breakdown, the bail and victims' rights amendments.
Right, two constitutional amendments. One expands the number of crimes where a judge can deny bail. Right now in the state constitution, it's only for first-degree murder and rape of a child under 12 that a judge can outright deny bail. But this expands it to 73 new crimes that a judge can choose, if he or she wishes, to deny bail based on the circumstances of the case. And so it expands that number of crimes if it passes the voters on the November 2026 ballot, which is when the next governor's race is. The second amendment is a victims' rights amendment. There is a Victims' Bill of Rights in the Constitution already, but what this does is strengthen that and adds what's called Marsy's Law. Marsy's Law basically says that a victim has to be notified if their abuser is released from jail at any point in the process and for any reason. They have to be notified.
Okay, and so where do they stand right now?
So both of those have passed the legislature twice, the first time by majority, the second time by 2/3 as required, and now it will be on the ballot in 2026 during the governor's race. And the tricky thing about it is that the amendments have to pass by 50% plus one of all the votes cast in the governor's race. So if you remember how ballots work, governor's race is usually at the top and the constitutional amendments are somewhere down below that. And usually you have what's called ballot drop-off. So for those who support it, need to make sure they go down the ballot and push the button for those.
Okay, I don't even know if we got to everything, but we're just going to have to do it again. Thank you so much, Mike Carpenter of Carpenter Civic Strategies.
Thank you.